Hello, everyone. Today we're going to begin to understand the biological causal factors of OCD. So, this particular causal factors part will cover genetics, OCD, and the brain, and also the neurotransmitters involved in OCD. So, we're going to have a quick view of all of this. So, firstly, we're going to look at the genetic factors. When we are looking at the genetic factors, we're first considering twin studies. So, twin studies basically compare monozygotic and dizygotic twins, which is basically identical and non-identical twins. Generally, identical twins have the same genetic framework, whereas non-identical twins do not have the same genetic framework, so they are more like brother sister. Okay, so basically, when there is a particular feature that you're trying to study in a monozygotic and dizygotic, generally it's expected to be at a higher rate of concordance in a monozygotic over a dizygotic. So that's exactly how it is proved in twin studies for OCD. It is noticed that OCD depicted of higher concordance rate in monozygotic twins over dizygotic twins, indicating of a genetic loading to this particular disease. Next, we are looking at family studies. When we are looking at family studies, we are looking at symptom patterns that are actually evident in the first degree relatives of patients with OCD. It is noticed that there is a higher rate of OCD like symptoms and also diagnosable OCD symptoms among first degree relatives of people with OCD. It's also noticed that when there is an early onset of OCD, this is often associated with a higher genetic loading, and also early onset OCD has also been noticed to be more evident among people with Tourette syndrome. Tourette syndrome is a syndrome which has a lot of chronic motor and vocal tics. So, however, it is though this is a very rare condition, it is often noticed that first degree relatives of people with Tourette syndrome tend to have OCD, and it's also noticed that people with Tourette syndrome in most cases have a diagnosable condition of OCD a little later after the diagnosis of Tourette syndrome. So, the underlying genetic mechanisms that underlie the diagnosis of the two are still being investigated. So, that's with regards to family studies. Next, we're going to look at OCD and the brain. So, when we are looking at OCD and the brain, we need to know that there are some abnormalities that tend to occur in certain cortical and subcortical structures of the brain. The three major brain areas that are implicated are the orbital frontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the caudate nucleus. So, it is often noticed that there is hyperactivity of these areas even when the patient is at rest for a person with OCD. It is also noticed that people with OCD, it's noticed that these areas become more responsive or more active when they are exposed to provocative stimulus, for example, exposed to dirt or exposed to a doorknob or a closet or something that could cause their obsessions to come alive. Okay, so they tend to have a higher higher activity in these regions. It is also noticed that people with OCD after successful treatment through medications or behavior therapy or cognitive behavior therapy, it is noticed that these people show a lower rates of activity in these regions. So that is one thing that is noticed in a patient's brain with OCD. Another aspect of OCD and the brain is the cortico-basal ganglionic thalamic cortical loops. Okay, so basically this particular pathway has different loops. Okay, it has both direct and indirect pathways to it. Okay, so it is often noticed that the this particular pathway is very important for certain very specific social and territorial behaviors, like for example checking behavior, sexuality, aggressive behavior, cleaning behavior. Okay, so these behaviors are few things that this particular region kind of controls. Also other behaviors that this region controls is emotional behaviors. It plays an important role in reward and reinforcement, addictive behaviors, and habit formation. So these are few things that this particular loop is involved in. You need to know that when this particular loop is activated through one pathway, there is always a negative feedback that occurs, okay, to stop activation of that particular behavior. For example, if suppose one of the pathway, the activation of the pathway causes a person to clean. Once the place is cleaned, okay, immediately you receive the brain sends in signals that the particular region is cleaned, and you stop the cleaning behavior. So the motor impulse to stop is kind of controlled. Okay, so but however, in for patients with OCD, this negative feedback doesn't really work. Okay, so what really happens is this normal inhibition of sensations, thoughts, and behavior that usually occurs for people without OCD does not really occur because of improper functioning of this particular pathway. So that's why we notice repetitive behaviors or repetitive rumination of certain obsessional thoughts in people with OCD compared to normal controls. Okay, so that is with regards to this particular pathway. Next, we're going to look at neurotransmitter abnormalities. The major neurotransmitter that seems to be affected in individuals with OCD is serotonin. This was a surprising, discovery in the year 1970, when it was noticed that a particular tricyclic antidepressant drug, clomipramine, okay, was actually very useful in the treatment of OCD. It kind of reduced major symptoms of OCD. So researchers began to investigate what really this drug had was doing in the brains of patients with OCD. It was noticed that clomipramine has effects of on the neurotransmitter serotonin. Serotonin in generally in patients' brains with OCD is hyperactive. That is, there is higher levels of serotonin in the brains of patients with OCD. So, or in other cases, there is higher sensitivity of certain brain structures to serotonin. Okay, so which in a way relates to serotonin being circulated at a higher rate in brains of people with OCD. So now you might be wondering, when you take an antidepressant, generally serotonin levels are brought to from lower levels to a higher level. Yes, of course, that's right. Generally, clomipramine also works that way, but there's a lot of difference. The immediate short term effect is that clomipramine kind of increases serotonin levels in the brain. But however, the long term effect of this particular drug is that it kind of restores the optimal levels of serotonin by bringing it down. Okay, so the long term effects can be visible in the client after about 6 to 12 weeks. So basically you can notice that serotonin levels are kind of declined by the use of this particular drug over time. All right, so other neurotransmitters that are still being studied under OCD are GABA, dopamine, and glutamate. Okay, and their role is yet to be clearly understood, but however, these are few other neurotransmitters that are actually still being investigated. So I hope you've all understood what was taught to you in this video, and if you have any doubts, please do verify. Thank you.